Our second panelist is Moshe Amirav. He serves currently also as a member of the Jerusalem City Council, where he's chairman of the Committee on East Jerusalem, that is the Palestinian sector. He was formerly a member of the Likud party, of which he became a Central Committee member. He left the Likud party in 1988. A note here in his biography says that he was put on political trial in his own party, that is the Likud, for meetings he held with P.L.O. officials. And he left Likud after trying to change its ideology, calling for a new approach to the conflict. He's authored a number of books and articles, including one entitled The Possible Semitic Alliance. Mr. Amirav.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege for me to be here today, and I understand that I was invited to speak about potential solutions, answers to the problem. I would rather start with some questions, and I believe I will stay with the questions and emphasize much more on what is called the problem than on the solutions. I see the people here, most of them, I believe, know the general situation. They even have some solutions. Where I come from, Israel, every Israeli has its own solution to the problem. But you know, in Judaism we say that the questions are much more important than the answers. We consider somebody who can ask the right, the real, sometimes the painful question much more important than giving just the answers. There are two assumptions. One, that there is a solution, there is a magic arrangement that can be achieved, and two, that we know exactly what is the problem. I'm not sure about these two assumptions. And on the political and academic arena, there is a lot of discussion about the solutions. Very few speak about the problem. Richard Ross, one of the scholars who investigated the problem of Northern Ireland, wrote once, "There are many who speak about a solution to the problem, the political problem of Northern Ireland, but very few are ready to say what is the problem." The reason is very simple. The problem is that there is no solution. So what is the problem in the Middle East? You will say it's very simple. I saw Mr. Shamir, who used to be a friend of mine once, saying on television once, it's very simple. It's just the question of whose land is it. They, the Arabs, the Palestinians say it's their land, and we say it's our land. As simple as that. Is it so simple? Because if it is so simple, why is he not annexing the West Bank tomorrow morning? He has the majority for that in the Knesset. There is another definition of the problem made by my father, who died a few years ago. And whenever I spoke with him, he used to say, you know, Moshe, it's a great country, Israel. It's a great country, but the only problem is the Arabs here. If we wouldn't have the Arabs here, it could be a great country, Israel. And I defined the problem exactly from the Israeli perspective as the problem of living with the Arabs in the same land. And we have to live with them, and it's not just a tiny minority. We are speaking about a dual community in which in 47 we were 40% and they were 60%, and today we are 60% and they are 40%. And the conflict is rather deeper than we think, because it's not just to find a solution, a horizontal solution, the way many of you know. It's a real threat of what I call Israel Zionism. And the left in Israel and the right in Israel, the peace camp in Israel and the Likud in Israel, they are all together on this consensus. And the consensus is that we have to ignore this reality, that whatever solution will be, we will have to live with them forever. We in Jerusalem speak, and it's well known in the world, this sickness that we all, I believe, are ill, and it's called the Jerusalem syndrome. Literature and medicine speaks about people, healthy people who come to this city, Jerusalem, and suddenly got mad. Not because of the sun, it's just because of the reality. They see the reality and they can't accept it. They came with all their visions of what is Jerusalem, and suddenly they see a different city, a different reality, and they are in a kind of what is called a cognitive dissonance. They can't accept it, and they get mad. And that's exactly what happened to us Israelis from the very, very beginning. For Theodor Herzl, who wrote the Alte Neuland, the Palestinians, they didn't exist at all. For Ze'ev Jabotinsky, who was, and still, for me, a mentor, they exist, but their resistance to the whole settlements of Zionism in Israel will be overcome by what was called the Iron Wall. In 1937 he wrote this article about the iron wall that we will build our country, and then when it will be established, they will accept it. And for Ben-Gurion, it was always building the country, and I quote, without hurting any Arab child. And this is the Israeli denial that goes on for 80 years. And even today, there is a denial in the sense that the territories for the left is something not permanent, something that will end very soon. It's a matter of a year or 2 or 3. We will finish with this occupation. And for the right, we are holding the territories. We don't see the Arabs there. So the reality today is that the two sides, actually, the Palestinians and the Israelis, refuse to admit the problem. They want to bring time back. They understand that there is no way to win. The Palestinians refuse to admit, actually, that they failed. They lost in this war. And the Israelis, they refuse to admit that they never really win this war. Speaking about solutions, most of them in Israel and all over the world, including some of the American thinking today, is, I would say, vertical. It has to do with the kind of, you will be here, the Israelis, and you Palestinians, you will be there. And very, very few in Israel and in the Palestinian camp that I know are ready to speak about horizontal solutions. Solutions that are from another, I would say, context, because the context we take our solutions is basically a wrong one. The solutions has to come from places like South Africa or Northern Ireland. These are the places we can compare the situation. And in this sense, the Israeli camp is not right and left in the sense, but those who believe that there is a solution with the Arabs, and these are the very, very tiny minority, and those who believe that there is no solution with the Arabs, we have to separate it. And there are people in the Likud and in the left who believe so. And I would like to say a few words about the elements of solutions, not about the solutions. The first one is the cultural one, the educational one. And it is very important for us, the Israelis, to feel, and I think this is the major obstacle, that we are not foreigners in the Middle East, that we are part of the region. We are not an island. We are not here to change the Middle East. We are not here to rule the Palestinians. We try to be part of the region, and we are not able to achieve it. Another thing has to do with the term that Shamir used, this is our land or my land. And this has to be changed to a new term of our land. I mean by that the feeling that this land has, that the Palestinians and the Israelis have the same right on this land. And the last point has to do with Jewish moral and the whole essence, I would say, of the very establishment of the State of Israel. because I believe that in a sense we were, not in a sense, the chosen people, the Jews through history, by trying to justify it with the things we gave the world. And I believe we can give the world today new sense of peace and a new sense of arrangement that will bring peace in the area. And this is the uniqueness of the State of Israel. And in this sense, I would like to see my country different from many, many other countries. And in the political context, what I'm speaking about is a confederation, a kind of a confederal functional arrangement that can be made and has to be made in stages. And I know that some of my Palestinian friends are very annoyed when I speak about the timetable, because for me the timetable is not what it is usually for some journalists that say it's a matter of a month, of a year, of a convention, of a press conference. It's a matter of generations. And we have to be with a lot of patience to wait and see when this process is going to be achieved. And the last point I would like to make is Jerusalem, because for me this is another question or problem or solution, if you want. Because in Jerusalem today, as my friend Radwan Abu Ais said, it's a splitted city, 70% Jews, 30% Arabs. They are mixed with each other. You can't find a solution of the kind of the vertical one I was mentioning before. There is a term that is called East Jerusalem. Nothing like this really exists. In East Jerusalem we have 120,000 Jews living there right now and 150,000 Arabs living there right now. And the city is really changing in the sense that you will never ever be able to cut or to put a line in this city where are the Jews and the other place where are the Arabs. So we will have to find a solution in Jerusalem that is different from whatever you know in any other place or any other city in the world. And if we can find a solution in Jerusalem, I believe we can find a solution to the conflict. Because if we can't find a solution in Jerusalem, all the rest is not important, because Jerusalem is the heart of the conflict. So what we can do is to go and try on a very long process to see if we can in Jerusalem do things in the next few years, Palestinians and Israelis, that will lead us to a kind of a coexistence, a real one, not the coexistence we used to have. We used to have a coexistence in Jerusalem that I sometimes say it's a coexistence of the horse and the one who rides on the horse. It's also a kind of a coexistence. What we need is a coexistence in which there are partners. And right now the Palestinians don't want to be partners in the city. They can be. They can go to the election and vote and be part of the system. They can be part of what I call building together the city, and I know the problems they have in doing so, but this is the only way I can see, a practical way, will build Jerusalem as a model for peace. And if we can have one city and two capitals, and this is a vision, then I believe we can have one homeland and two states in the land of Palestine, Eretz Israel. Thank you very much.